Hello, welcome to CrimeCon's Book Club Live, or as I've wrote in the comments, CrimeCon Book Club Love with Steven Keogh, but we all love Steven Keogh. I'll edit that later. I'll let everybody join. I hope everyone's well. Nice to see, as always, author himself, Steven, is here first. So nice to see everyone joining. Hello, everybody. Hello, Kim. Hello, Henry Kelly. Hello, Julie Davis. It's nice to see everyone joining. I hope everyone is well. I'm waiting for Lisa to join first. Hello, Cherry. Hope you're feeling good. Hello, Dave and Maeve. Hello, Jimmy Emery. And let's get Lisa on. I hope everyone's doing all right. And here she comes. Hi, Jane. Nice to see everyone.
Hello, darling. I look really short. Hang on a sec. I've done something. Hang on. That's better.
Have you noticed what I just wrote in the comments? Book Club Love with Steven Keogh.
I think that sums it up, honey. This is going to be so much love. So much love for Steve. How are you doing?
That's been a Freudian slip. I'm a big fan of Steve, and I've really enjoyed this book. I've been talking about it. So let's talk about Stephen in a minute. How are you, Lisa? Are you good?
Oh, I'm very, very, very good. But let's not even talk about me. I think what we need to do is talk about a little something that's happening on Saturday. What might that be?
A little something called CrimeCon Glasgow. I am pretty much there, which is really lovely. This show is so nice because I'm actually going to get to sit and enjoy it.
Yeah.
And I love the scale of CrimeCon in London, which is brilliant. I love it. I don't get to actually see a lot.
Imagine.
I'm running it and I'm running around. So I'm running around like a whippet. But because CrimeCon in Glasgow is one room, one track, everyone's on the same journey, it means once it's rocking and rolling, the team and I can actually watch some of the sessions, and it's really nice for us as true crime enthusiasts to actually enjoy some of the content. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Take a day. I mean, we start kicking off at 8:30 and we're finishing at 10 at night. So we've added a podcasters and pints session, a premiere from CBS Reality, and a quiz all in one place. Because rather than trekking across Glasgow, we're all there. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. So I've literally got a few tickets left. If anyone hasn't come, please come and join us. But I'm super excited. I know there's a lot of people here that are joining the chat now that are coming at the weekend. So I look forward to seeing you all there. But that's not why we're here tonight.
Not tonight.
Tonight, to talk about the book that we've been reading. Steve's book. I'd like to know in the comments if you've read it, if you haven't read it, or if you've started it. If you don't know anything about Jack the Ripper, I'm sure you all do. So there's a lot. Just put in the comments and let me know where you're at with it. But why have we picked this one, Lisa? This was your choice this month.
It was because I love Steve. We both love Steve, but I interviewed him for the magazine, and I'm not joking. When he started talking about this, I was getting goosebumps. It's fascinating, and as you know, one of the kind of most interesting things about this is there's actually, as well as him looking at the whole case from a modern perspective, this is 1888, looking at it now, but the chapters all start with these first-person witness accounts, and we'll talk to him about that. But it's just it really brings it home how the impact that these crimes had, and also I didn't really appreciate what a short span of time all of these dreadful crimes happened in. It's one of those things where I was born in London, I've lived in London all my life. You walk around, I've been to Whitechapel, and there are these people that do these tours, and it's just part of the fabric. But I've realized I know nothing until I read this, and then I realized, oh my God. And it's just, I was getting goosebumps when I interviewed Steve for the magazine. And the minute that I finished, I emailed you and you said, oh, it's already on my radar. I'm already up for that one. So then we got him on, and here we are. But I think it's going to be really interesting. And
what is really interesting about the comments that are coming through as you're chatting is There's a lot of people that have got it that are yet to start it. I have read it. A fascinating take on an iconic case it is. So let's get Steve on. Please, 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 guys, chip in, ask your questions. Please give us questions that you want, and we will get them addressed to Steve. We all know, those of you that have been with me for book club for a while, Steve loves chat, so we know we're not going to for an hour, because it wasn't that long ago we were doing murder investigation team.
Yeah.
So let's get him on now. Here we go. Here we go. Let's go. When he did this last, it didn't work, if you also remember.
Oh, there he is.
Hi.
Hello, Doc.
Hi, Lisa. You all right?
Hello, darling.
Where's Nancy gone?
Oh, can you see her? She's up there.
Oh, is she? Oh, right. She's not up there, am I?
Can you see me?
I see you. Oh, no, you're. It's like you turn the lights off.
Well, that's weird. I can see her in glorious, glorious
Oh.
town.
I'll imagine her.
We'll draw her in at the top.
Unfortunately, it doesn't matter. Well, it doesn't matter. You don't need to see me.
I can hear you. That's the very important thing, yeah.
Right, first of all, Steve, for those of you that don't know you, and I know Lisa and I are talking because we do know you of old now, but do you want to, because you weren't an author, were you, my darling? You weren't an author. This is not where you started. Can you give us a bit of a recap?
Where I started is some dodgy council estate in South London. So how I managed to put out 2 books is a miracle. I don't know. Is it? Yes, I joined the police at 20, 30 years. The last 12 of that investigating murder, and I just loved investigating murder. It was like, and it sounds corny and a cliche, but I found my calling. So, and I can't let it go. Like the police, and everything I do is about murder. So yeah.
And you obviously finished working at the force, and then you decided to write your first book, which we've already reviewed, which was Murder Investigation Team, which got published by Bonnier. And then having picked up this new one, it's very, very different, Steve. The principles within it, I know it's you writing it, but it's a very different read to Murder Investigation Team. You're a novelist now, my darling, aren't you? You're painting the picture, you're taking me back right to where, you know, the notorious Jack the Ripper was found in London, and I really felt like I was back in Whitechapel, East London during that time reading it. So well done. Did you find that hard?
You know what? I'd love to go. Yeah, I don't want to sound cocky, but it come quite easy to me. I don't know why. But what was really important to me was, like, you can pick up many Jack the Ripper books, and what I didn't want to do is just cut and paste the facts from there to there. Murder is real to me. Like, I spent 12 years of it surrounded by the grief and trauma that it causes from the witnesses, the family that are left behind, seeing the sites, and I wanted to try and get across that these are real events, and they can almost get made out like it's almost like it's not real, like it's some sort of story from the past, like Robin Hood, but it's not. These are real people that are affected, real victims, and those that witnessed it, they almost get mentioned in passing, like their name and a newspaper article reporting on what they said at the inquest. But these are real people, and that's what I wanted to get across. That real murder is real, and Jack the Ripper is not some mysterious thing from the past, like a made-up story. It's a real thing that happened to real people.
It's certainly, Steve, came across that you were there when you were doing it. I mean, one of the comments, example Michelle's just said, is I felt like it was part of Steve's team analysing the evidence with him. It was great to see how he presented the facts and could allow us to draw our own conclusions. May I ask a question? Because it's all about, because am I right in saying this? The National Crime Agency gave you eyes and your hands on a very unique piece of information, didn't they? This is not a normal thing that National Crime Agencies share, is it? So how did you get your hands on this in the first place?
Yeah, I mean, if you don't ask, you don't get. I literally asked didn't expect. And I reached out. LinkedIn is great. I love LinkedIn. And I reached out on LinkedIn to Pippa Gregory, who's just one of three in the country that literally provide criminal profiles. I mean, they're not called criminal profiles anymore, but that's how we all know them, isn't it? And I just said, look, Pippa, I'm writing this book. It would be amazing if you could. And if you think about it, if you're a criminal profile, I don't think there's a better criminal to do your profile on, is there really? It's like the pinnacle for any criminologist. And so she said, yeah, I'd love to do it. But she had to get authority from the NCA. And it was like, I was holding off because they've never done it before. They've never published their work. They've never gone live with this is what we do and this is a sample of our work. So for them to do it was a big step for them. And I felt humbled that they would agree to do it for my book.
Did they look at it before you published?
No, they didn't. They just trusted me.
They trust.
They looked at their chapter, and their chapter had to go through peer reviewing for Pippa, and then through her line management to make sure they were happy with the content. But yeah, they did take a bit of a gamble. But look, I mean, they checked me out, and obviously checked me out, and they knew I'm not. I was from my last bit. I'm not a sensationalist. I'm not here to try and sort of glorify anything. To me, it's a cold look at the facts and the evidence and what a modern day detective can bring to it. And I think they appreciate that was the type of book it was going to be.
Can I ask you, Steve, what I found really interesting was, am I right in saying that you didn't want to, that you kind of wrote it in a very linear fashion? You started at crime number 1 and just started going in as you didn't want to know the suspects until you were ready for the suspects. So am I right in thinking you started at the crime number 1 and started working as if it were an actual series of murders that were happening on your patch?
100%. So if you think about, if I'm trying to approach it like we would in real life, in that situation, we presented with a murder, with Emma Smith's murder, then you'd go on some other temporary. You wouldn't come it from the end back. So that's how I approached it, and I tried to block out all the theories, conjecture, because there's so much of it and so many books written about it and so many theories, and I tried to block all that out. And it's like if I'm coming at it cold, if it was a current murder, current investigation, I wouldn't have access to all this information. So the important thing is to look at the crime scene, look at what the witnesses are saying at the crime scene, and then work from there. And I use the word quite a bit in the book, and it's true. It's a journey. So it's a journey for me. I would certainly, if you're new to Jack the Ripper, I'd like it to be a journey for the person discovering with me. Really, that's what you're doing. You're discovering with me what's coming along. If I'm honest, the suspect is the least interesting thing for me. It's the crimes that I'm really interested in, because the suspects, all right, yeah, that's a question everybody wants to answer. But as a detective, how he committed his crimes, why he committed his crimes, and which crimes were down to him were really the things that I was most interested in.
I really want to talk about that, but I remember when I spoke to you, the reason that I got the goosebumps, I remember, is you were telling me that you didn't really know much about Jack the Ripper and that your American kind of viewers on YouTube, and then you discovered about Fred Aberline, didn't you? Can you tell us about that? Because I found this fascinating.
Yeah. So I had a YouTube channel. I don't really do anything like that anymore. And I had a lot of American subscribers, and they kept talking about Jack the Ripper, and we want to know about Jack the Ripper. So I thought, I better do something about it. And when I started looking into it, and I realised that the lead investigator was Frederick Aberline. And when I started looking at his career, it was like, wow, our careers mirrored each other so much. So we both ended up as investigators. I think he might have moved on, but I certainly ended up as a detective inspector investigating murders under the umbrella of Scotland Yard, and that's what he did. Before that, we both worked in the Whitechapel area. For me, it was known as Tower Hamlets, but it's the same area. I covered Whitechapel. My first nick there was Bethnal Green, so literally just around the corner. And that's where he was based before he went to Scotland Yard. Then before that, I investigated terrorism, and he investigated terrorism. For him, it was Fenians, the Irish terrorism. For me, it was mostly Islamic. So where our careers kind of followed that path, it just sparked my mind. It's like, well, if I were in his position, would I do anything different? How would I do it today, and etc. And it just all sort of snowballed from there. and that's where it comes from. So the main thrust of the book for me is that it was, if I'm Frederick Aberline now, what would I do, and how would that differ from what he did back then?
Well, you certainly pick up a bloody camera, mate, wouldn't you? Take
I do go on a little bit about that, don't I? I didn't want to be too critical, because it ultimately, what you don't know what you don't know, so you can't criticise them for stuff they didn't know. But where there were things that they could have done better, where they had opportunities, that's what really got to me. So photography was one, use of the media was another. Bits of they had opportunities to get information, to make their case stronger, to professionalise how they did things, and they missed it at the beginning, and I found that quite frustrating. You might have picked up on. But then as you follow their journey, so I talk about a journey. So it was a journey for me, and I hope it's a journey for the reader. Then you've got the journey for the police. The police were definitely on a journey. So from where they were with, maybe not Emma Smith because they didn't really investigate it properly, but from Martha Tabram through to Mary Jane Kelly, you see the journey they're on, and they're getting better, they're professionalising, they're cutting out the mistakes, and that's their journey. And that was brilliant. I loved seeing that, and where they ended up with Mary Jane Kelly so mirrors where we are today. And as you said, Lisa, before, it's such a short space of time. You're talking, what, 3-4 months, but then you see the journey of the killer himself, and that's another journey the whole book for me is like, I'm on a journey, the police are on a journey, the readers are on a journey, and ultimately the killer's on a journey. So yeah, that's what I loved writing about it.
Well, one of the comments that Charlie Baughen just said was, I loved learning along. As the book progresses, she really enjoyed the fact that she was Charlie Baughen loved learning along as the book progressed. And I think that's one of the comments that just keeps coming through, Steve, for everyone. And there's a lot of you that are only halfway through, so I don't want to kind of ruin it, but it's a historic case, so we kind of know what happened in the case. Very interesting take on it.
You say that, Nancy, but I didn't. I knew he killed a number. I didn't know what number. The women were prostitutes, so as far as I was aware, and it was in Whitechapel. I don't think it was much more than that than I knew. And so yeah, that's why I say it's a journey. So it's a journey of learning for me. And if you have my similar level of knowledge of Jack the Ripper, it'll be a learning for you as well.
You come up with some surprises, and I don't want to spoil anything, but let's just say that you do differ in opinion from perhaps the accepted wisdom. Have you had anybody kind of reach out subsequently and kind of want to argue with you about that? And I think you would welcome that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, but also as well, from the very beginning of the book, from the introduction, my book isn't about me persuading you that I'm right. It's about presenting the facts and the evidence as I see it, explaining what would happen today and what we would do with that evidence, and how strong it would be. And I do come up with my own conclusions, but I don't come out with them as in you must agree. It's like, you make up your own mind, and if you disagree, brilliant, because what you've done is as long as you've read it and you've got this, if you've read the same facts and you've interpreted them differently, brilliant. Because just imagine if this was today. Essentially what I'm doing is gathering the evidence that I would pass on to the CPS, that would go to a trial, and it would be down to 12 members of the public to make their own mind up. So it's a process that I'm used to. As much as when I was investigating murders, I might be absolutely convinced. I've never charged someone murder where I wasn't convinced they'd done it. I'm convinced this person is a murderer. But they don't all get found guilty, and that's the system we're in. So me presenting the facts as I find them, if you disagree with me, great, brilliant. I mean, everybody's can interpret facts in different ways.
I feel like you welcome that as well. Like you say, I like the fact that at the beginning you're saying, see what you think, because it feels a little bit like that, like we can piece it together. I feel like if I went back, if I read it all and now I went back, having read the end and seeing where you kind of came from, I feel like I could go back and start joining the dots and saying, oh yeah, okay, I see what you did there.
But and Lisa, if you disagree with me, brilliant, absolutely brilliant, because that's.
I do.
But there's what in my research, when I was looking into it, you can't. I tried to stay away from it, but there's like a whole world of ripperology, they call it, and they literally falling out with each other because they disagree on who did it and what crimes they were and how he committed the crimes. It's like it's just crazy for me. It's like have your opinions. You can have different opinions and you can debate them, but you don't need to fall out about it, do you?
Did you change your opinion, Steve, as you went through it? Did you think one thing in your mind as you were, because you did this as a journey piece, and you did fast forward to the end? Where were your twists and turns?
Oh, that's a good question.
Oh, it's one of mine.
I think the one. I think the one. I think the one I struggled with the most was the second murder in terms of did I believe that he committed it, because that's outside the canonical five. And I think by the time I got to the end, I'd switched my mind a couple of times. When I got to the end and I looked at all the evidence, and especially when I started to get because I did the profile from Pippa Gregory from the National Crime Agency. One of the most useful things that she also provided is something that people don't get access to, and it's the SCAS figures. Now, these figures, every time there's a murder or a serious sexual offence, the details around it are recorded, and it goes through all the detail from like the crime scene, the makeup of the crime scene, how the crime was committed, the time of day, the outside, inside, the injuries caused, everything you could think of. I used to hate filling out these forms, by the way. Whenever we had a murder, and I had to fill out these forms, I hated it. But now I can see the use of it. But one of the things that, because by the time I didn't get that until after I'd written the first part of the book, and seeing the figures and seeing, so for instance, that Martha Tabram's got some injuries that I was saying at the very beginning of the book, I'd never seen them in my career. I think they're rare. Then when I saw Pippa's figures that were based from the 1980s to today, and you see actually how rare those injuries are, it's like, well, actually, yeah, that reinforces it for me.
Okay. Do you think they're going to give you any access to anything else, Steve? Sorry, I'm jumping ahead now to like what's next. But they've obviously got confidence in sharing this type of information. Do you think they'd give you eyes on anything else to reinvestigate? It's it's an interesting learning, I think, for this.
Yeah, I've not thought about that. I don't know. I mean, I haven't had much feedback from them since I've gone quiet.
But they are.
I don't know what I
There's
mean.
only 3 of them beavering away. They're a bit busy.
Because that was one of the things, actually, one of the questions that came in was if there was another historic case that you would take and get your hands on the information, what case would it be?
Do you know what? If it's a right book, because I'll be honest, I never want to write a book again. I found it is such hard work. It really was. You put everything into it.
Yeah.
It took me a year to write. My first one took me about 4 months because essentially it's the stuff that was in my mind. And this one took about a year because I had to research and I only really touched the tip of the iceberg when it comes to Jack the Ripper and the actual the world. So as much as I've tried to paint a picture of what it was like in 1888, there's so much more detail. You have to draw the line somewhere. But there's so much research you have to do, and to think of maybe next year, come back next year and ask me, I might have changed my mind. At the moment, I can't think of anything worse than writing another book.
Can I ask you about those? Because I was fascinated by those. They really humanise the book, don't they? Those witness accounts. How did you get access to those in the first place? And did you have to kind of pick and choose which ones made the story for you and kind of told the story?
Yeah, so I was very privileged in as much as the Jack the Ripper has been researched to death, and there are 2 or 3 publications that have got everything you need. Really, they've got all the evidence. They've got everything that the witnesses said. The newspaper articles that had the like, proper information, not their sensationalized stuff, but the real information that was outside of from the courts, and the police reports. If you take that all together, and I think.
Hello, I've just logged back on and I am really sorry about that. I have absolutely no idea what just happened. We were just live with Steven Keogh and Lisa from Crime Monthly magazine, and I'm hoping that you've all dropped off and everyone will come. Technology is a wonderful thing. So we're live again, and now I'm waiting for everyone to join, and I've got a horrible feeling that everyone is somewhere else. Let's hope you're not. Let's hope you're not. Let's see where you all are. Hi, Steve. No idea what went on, mate. It's nice to see you all coming back. Hello, 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 hello.
Did we all disappear? Did we all disappear?
Now, do you want me to tell you the truth of what just happened?
What just happened?
I was listening to Steve, and then my mum rang, and I think she knocked the whole Instagram live off. So apologies, everybody. Cancelled, but as I cancelled her, I cancelled the entire live. So apologies.
I thought it was me. I was going, oh my God, I've turned everything off. Oh my, I was like, oh my God, what have I done?
Can you see me now, Steve?
No, you're still black to me. I'd like to just dark.
Oh, well, you don't need to.
I can still hear you, though. I can still hear you.
We're all back.
Oh, right. Apologies. Everyone's coming back. You're all laughing at me. Thank you very much.
Cried. Someone say, oh, bless you.
Fine.
I thought, oh God, what now? She's going to kill me.
We're all back on. So for you, apologies. The line just got knocked off by an incoming call. Unexpected. My mum didn't answer.
Everything keeps buffering for me, but how are we doing? Can everybody hear everybody? Are we all there?
I'm here.
Yeah.
Right. Do you know what? Let's carry on talking about. Right. So, am I right in saying, Steve? Now, let me get this right. Your feeling is that we're all fascinated as humans. Why did he do the dreadful things he did? But from an investigative point of view, that doesn't matter to you. The why doesn't matter as much as the how. Is that right?
It's right. So when it comes to the why in murder, why does someone commit it? It's a weird thing. So when we take a murderer to court, we don't have to prove why. We have to prove that they did it, essentially. But altogether, and I think.
Here we go.
Hey, darling.
You're right, love.
Hey, honey. How are you?
I'm good.
It's all
I'm
going on
good.
tonight, ain't it?
It's all going crazy. I'm sorry, guys. Yeah. So this was nothing to do with Nancy's mum. It's purely her phone is overheated, I think, and she's having some technical issues at her end. So I thought I'll just dive on.
Is Steve still here, my darling? Can we get him on?
I'm just accepting him back on now. It's just taking a second.
Oh.
Now it's telling me that Steve's not able to join. Hang on with me a second. Just complete technology failure.
Oh, don't worry, darling. It's been very hot. Mercury's retrograde.
Exactly. That's what I'm blaming.
Oh,
there we go.
There we are.
Hold on, I've just got to put my headphones. It's come off my headphones. 1 second.
He's going to go, Nancy's changed.
I know. Literally, I've transformed into this weird Welsh creature.
There he is. There he is. There he is. We can carry on, sweetheart, can't we, for a little while?
You were breaking up before, Lisa. You look much clearer now. So obviously,
what's going on tonight? Instagram's having a meltdown.
Really? Jack the Ripper has got in the system.
We'll just carry on. Honey, if you see any questions, can you yell for us, darling?
Of course, yeah, absolutely.
We'll just carry on. So where were we? Oh my God, menopausal brain.
We were talking about the why, weren't we? We were talking about the why.
Yes. Would you say these days, surely he'd be classified as psychopath or not?
See, I don't get caught up in this. See, for me, what motivates him doesn't matter. So you know, I believe there are 3 reasons people kill. You sat through at CrimeCon.
Oh yeah,
you sat through that.
tell everybody who wasn't in our marvelous session.
Yeah, so I believe
push,
there are very basic reasons why people kill, because as human beings we're motivated by one of 3 things: what we're feeling at the time, what we want to feel, or the benefit we're going to get from it. So if you relate that to exercise, you will exercise because of how you're feeling. I feel overweight, I feel tired, I feel lethargic. How I want to feel, I get a rush of endorphins, I get a buzz, I enjoy it. Or the benefit we'll get, so I'll lose weight, I'll sleep longer, live longer, whatever. Everything we do as human beings, we do so because of what we're feeling, what we want to feel, and the benefit we get. And I think what happens is when it comes to murder, people almost give it a different meaning because it's murder. Oh, it's killing someone. But when you strip away the legality of it and the morals of it, it actually boils down to one of 3 things. People kill because of how they feel. They're angry, they're jealous, they want revenge. That's how they feel. So something's triggered inside me. Someone's done something. That's how I feel. And the benefits of the gang, so robbery, terrorism, gang affiliation, it's all to do with the benefit you'll get from killing someone. And it's the pull of emotion that sits with most serial killers. So most serial killers are killing because of what's driving them inside. I personally don't get caught. I think you end up playing semantics when you start trying to label that feeling. Is it power? Is it control? Is it sexual gratification? Is it enjoyment? I think the killer themselves probably doesn't even know. All they will know is there's something inside driving me. I need to do that act because that's what it makes me feel. And that to me is the important thing, that whether someone's suffering from psychopathy or some other personality disorder or under the influence of drugs or whatever it is, that may affect their rational thinking, and it may make them not think about the consequences, but they're still going to be driven by that inner need that they need to I was going to use the word, I was going to use a word I don't even know if it's the right meaning, but my council house boy comes out occasionally.
Good.
But they've got this need. They've got this need that they need to satisfy.
Sate, is that the one?
That was the word I was going to use, but I wasn't sure if it fitted.
Satiate. Babe, I come from a West London council estate. We'll get there.
When I write a book, it's fine because I can refer to a thesaurus or something like that. Anyway, yeah. So, and that's for me one of the big reasons why they didn't catch Jack the Ripper is because they didn't understand that, and they fixated. The police literally fixated on a lunatic. Who on earth could kill somebody at random, mutilate their body, steal bits of body parts? Who could do that? Well, it has to be a lunatic, isn't it? It can't be anybody normal, so it has to be a lunatic. But what we know now, from the benefit of hindsight of countless serial killers, is actually most of them move around in society, and you wouldn't know. They could be your next door neighbour, they could be your partner, and you wouldn't know. And that's because they're not frothing at the mouth, running around the street. They're mostly controlled, calculated, and they get away with their murders because of that. And it's only later on when it all comes out, you go, oh, actually, yeah, it was a bit odd. But at the time, people wouldn't point a finger at them. So, and that for me is one of the reasons why they didn't catch Jack the Ripper, because they were looking in the wrong place. They were looking for the wrong person. If you don't know who you're looking for, how on earth are you going to catch them? There was one report that they're talking about gypsies. There's some Romany gypsies. There's a cowboy show.
Oh, that's right. You said that to me.
A cowboy show. I mean, they're looking for all these people that are not normal Londoners. It must be there's these lunatics running away, a lunatic running around killing people. It must be a cowboy. And you're like, you're looking in the wrong place. And this is one of the things that frustrated me as I'm going through, and you keep seeing them referring it, and they're scouring, as they refer to them, as the lunatic asylums. And they're just looking in the wrong place as far as I was concerned. And so when I got Pippa Gregory's profile from the NCA, I made a decision. Whatever she said, even if it blows out all everything I've said, I'll run with it, because you have to do that. I could then adapt my book back because I've already written it. Um, but it was nice that she agreed that I was on the right track through it.
Yeah.
Essentially, I mean,
You
it
came
wasn't
to the
a
same
lunacy.
sort of conclusion, didn't you?
We did, yeah.
I think.
Yeah,
Go on, honey. So there's a
sorry.
question, isn't there? I
Yeah,
can't
I was
do
just
the
gonna say.
questions, but you can,
No,
can't you, baby?
okay, yeah, we've got a question in from Donna, which is along that line really about kind of different types of people being involved. So Donna's asking if people, if the victims weren't sex workers, essentially, do we think that the investigation would have been solved? Do you think that it would have taken a different route if those ladies were perhaps from a higher class in society, or how do you think that would have changed things, Steve?
I think what would have happened is they would have got to where they got sooner, if that makes sense. The
Yeah,
pressure they were under, there's no way they had to do everything they could. At the end of the day, a commissioner lost his job essentially, really largely to do with this. It was the biggest case in the history of the Metropolitan Police, and maybe even since. Certainly at that time, and maybe even since. And the political pressure to solve it was huge, regardless of the victims. But it took them time to get there. And you look at Emma Smith, Martha Tabram, Annie Chapman, you think, how long did it take them to get there? I don't think it changed the result. I don't
yeah,
think. I think it was bad luck. They didn't get the witnesses, and there were situations where it could easily have been seen or caught, and it didn't happen. But I do think, if you read the book, you will see that I don't have a lot of time for those that are high up, and I think there were decisions made
yeah,
high up that affected down below. Just as simple as the commissioner wouldn't allow those investigating the murder to make decisions, important decisions. They had to go up one level to Chief Inspector Swanson, but even he couldn't make decisions. Any important decisions, he had to come and say, and it just doesn't work. And then when you see the decisions they were making, it's not like we're the best here, so you have to come to us because we're brilliant. The decisions they were making were rubbish. So I think they were set up to fail.
yeah.
There's quite a lot of similarity in a way, isn't there, with the with Peter Sutcliffe? And one of the major things that you and I talked about before was how the index. So what happened with the Sutcliffe case was that they were getting so much information, weren't they? So many witnesses, so much information coming in, no way of cross-referencing it, and that led to the Holmes system. Is that right? And you kind of feel like that was the same with this investigation, that they just couldn't marshal the information that was coming in, the sheer amount of information.
Yeah, they would be getting so much snippets of information from so many different areas, but no way of cross-referencing it. So Sutcliffe got stopped 9 times, I think, and it was because different forces from different areas were investigating it, and there was no way of cross-referencing the information they had. And I'm absolutely convinced, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that the name of Jack the Ripper, the real person, is within their files somewhere. Because they spoke to so many people, took so much information from knocking on doors, stopping people, arresting people, etc. But how would they have drawn it out? And is there a little bit of snippet here that would have, if they put it with this bit over here and they put it together, that could have helped? And we'll never know. But the Holmes computer system was brought in after the Ripper inquiry, and it's a way of all the information from a murder inquiry gets loaded on, and it can be cross-referenced. So if, for instance, a name came up, straight away you'd be able to see where all the different statements and all the different documents where that name comes up, and it may draw information that you would miss, because no one person can take all that information in. So it's a simple thing that a computer that could allow them to cross-reference the information may have been what solved it.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting, and I think so that ties very nicely in with what Jane's just asked, the lovely Jane, who's just asked about the kind of physical evidence that's left from the time of the murders. Is there anything that still remains, Steve? There's nothing around?
Not officially.
No.
So not officially. So for instance, there was a big hoo-ha about a shawl that was said to have originated from Catherine Eddowes. And a police officer took it off, and it was within their family and it had been handed down.
Oh my God.
But the provenance of that was just there was no way of showing the continuity that comes from the crime scene. And if it was at the crime scene, why would it have been taken? Wouldn't it? It would have gone into with the rest of the exhibits. And then from there was some DNA, some mitochondrial DNA that suggested to belong to Kosminski. None of it, as far as I'm concerned, would hold any weight in court or get anywhere close to that. And what happens in the police is that after a certain amount of time, things get destroyed. There's only a finite amount of space. They go into a warehouse, and traditionally, what used to happen is we need to get rid of something. What's the oldest? We'll get rid of that. So that meant a lot of things got destroyed. I think the one thing that could happen is I think some things got taken by people as sort of souvenirs, potentially. But even then, you've got to say, well, how can we prove that was a souvenir and not just being made up? So I maybe, sorry, was it Kate?
It was Jane.
No, it wasn't Kate, was it? Jane. So maybe, I don't know if Jane was angling towards whether or not DNA might be available, but I seriously doubt it, essentially.
Without giving away the ending, I mean, it's not The Sixth Sense, is it? People kind of, I still don't want to give away the ending of The Sixth Sense.
They're all dead.
This is like 200 years later. But what really got me in the book was the epilogue. The epilogue in your book, is that real?
Yeah.
Is that a real
100%.
journalist account?
It's Frederick Aberline. He got interviewed by that journalist. The journalist turned up to his house, interviewed him, and those words are verbatim, apart from when he's opening the door. But everything he says about the case is verbatim lifted from the newspaper report, just put in a way that it's almost that you're there listening to him say it rather than reading it in the newspaper. So that person, sorry.
Did you find that after? So when you had come down on the side of who you on balance believed did it, did you then find that bit of reporting, or was that there and then you kind of went, oh, you know?
Can I just, I don't believe on balance he did it. I believe on balance of those suspects, if he was on that list, he would be my favourite on the list. Shall I spoil it by who I believe did it?
Well, no.
It's a book club. They're supposed to have read it. Look, I'll be honest. My honest opinion is we haven't got a bloody clue. That's my honest opinion. I think he's a faceless man that we've probably never have heard of his name. That's who I think. Where I talk about a suspect, it's like, well, on that list of the most popular suspects, after I've applied that TIE, where we eliminate people, we find the elimination criteria, which is a way we do it in the police. We set a certain criteria of, well, if people, for instance, like we can prove they weren't at the scene, they have an alibi, their DNA doesn't match what's at the scene. There are certain criteria we can apply, and if we apply that to somebody and we can eliminate them, then we can say it's not them, and we can move on to others, and we can maybe then look at arresting them, putting them on surveillance, that kind of thing. So I use that technique on the 10 most popular sort of suspects, get down to 2, and up to 2, there's the one that I would favour. And I did that. I honestly did that before I realised that that's what Frederick Aberline said. And it looks like I've engineered it, but I really haven't. I really came down on that person, and then Aberline did too.
When I read that, I was like, oh my God. When I read the epilogue, I was like, I was kind of going, this can't be true. I mean, is this really what's happened? It's extremely compelling. I know that you say, well, maybe none of them did it really, but it's extremely compelling, isn't it? I think.
I think so on the evidence that I've got, but then I don't. If the elimination criteria, part of it is that they weren't elsewhere, but there may be evidence somewhere else. I don't know, because I haven't looked into this fella. There may be evidence that he was elsewhere, but I don't have. That's not in within the papers and everything that I've got. So, if I'm honest, I don't want to get drawn into the suspects, because I just honestly think we don't have enough information. There just isn't enough what I would class as evidence to link anybody to the crimes. Because you haven't read the book. What evidence is there?
Yeah,
a
few sketchy descriptions.
True.
That's it, really, isn't it?
Sort of living nearby was well, now you're picking it apart. Now maybe I think I would make a great copper, because I was just said that I would have gone for him. Did
Yeah,
you
but
ask your question? Sorry, darling.
That's
what I was
okay.
going to say is that you can very easily form an opinion on someone based on what people put across. But what else I'll talk about is that what the people that put suspects up do is they basically present the case to the prosecution. They say, this is why I think this person has done it, and it'll be quite loose evidence, because it's not evidence. It will be that he acts in a similar way, or he fits a loose description, whatever it is. But what they don't then do is come with the case for the defence and say, well, actually, it can't be him because, and until you've seen that balance for any suspect, but I think people easily fall onto it because oh, that sounds convincing. Yeah, I'll go with him, without considering the other side. Well, actually, when you look at the evidence, what evidence is there of him? And I think that's a danger that we fall into.
Yeah, and I think that's really interesting, isn't it? Because evidence obviously forms the basis of a lot of the or the lack of evidence really forms the basis of a lot of the things that we know about Jack the Ripper. And I think, you know, the fact that you've sort of highlighted some of that lack of evidence as being actually part of the conclusions you've made, I think is really interesting, and that's what I loved about it. And I think, so Shell has just asked about the witness statements. So a few of the witness statements, you know, talking of evidence, mentions a male holding a package whilst, you know, with the victim. Is it possible these could have been his weapons? Is it, you know, did they have stop and search powers back then? Like what could have been done about that?
So what is interesting is that one of those witnesses, so one person says they saw a package. And then there's a witness that comes right at the end for Mary Jane Kelly's murder, who I have serious doubts over. Who, the way I look at it, if you want to lie, you anchor your lies in truth. If you want to be a good liar will anchor their lies in truth. He come up with some of the. He basically was. It looked like he was picking bits of description from earlier witnesses and grouping them all together to make his suspect look more stronger. For instance, one of the in the Catherine Eddowes murder, a witness sees Catherine Eddowes with a man who he describes as wearing a red neckerchief, and then this later witness says, oh, when he was talking to Mary Jane Kelly, he happened to produce a red neckerchief from his. I was really contrived. It's like, what situation was it? It just doesn't make any sense. And then the package, it's just like that witness there, I've serious. I can't say he was lying because I don't know. I have serious doubts over. And even that with Catherine Eddowes, when you look at what Catherine Eddowes was wearing, she had a red neckerchief on that she got seen with by various police officers. Then a witness who sees them for a brief, must have been a matter of seconds, walking past them, has no real reason to remember them because they weren't really doing anything. And later on says, oh yeah, I think the man was wearing a red neckerchief. Well, he was wearing a red neckerchief. Could you have got them mixed up? Well, quite clearly you could have got them mixed up. So when you look at it like that and you step away from it and you try and think, put yourself in a situation of a witness. I've dealt with so many witnesses who witnessed murder where something's happened very quickly in front of them, and days, weeks, months later, they're being asked to go on an ID parade and pick someone out, and they struggle, they really, really struggle. And likewise, they'll give us a description, and we'll look at the CCTV, and it's completely different because your mind plays tricks. So it's those kind of things that I was trying to bring to it.
You don't think any of the witnesses, I mean, just to add a little bit more drama to this, you don't think any of those witnesses could have been people that, even the killer, inserting himself in the investigation? You never came across a witness statement that made you think, oh, hang on.
See, funny enough, that one I'm talking about, the friend of Mary Kelly, a lot of people think he was the killer and he's inserted himself into the crimes. I don't think that's true, but it sounds good, doesn't it? It's a good theory. But I talk about that in the book where I mentioned, I can't remember how many. So I write about 6 murders, 4. So there's at least 20 or 25, say, witnesses in that I write about, and about half of those in some place somewhere in time have been named by someone as being Jack the Ripper.
Oh my God!
Even Frederick Haberline has been named as Jack the Ripper. The chances are, if your name appears in the case, someone's accused you of being Jack the Ripper.
God. And who's the other one? Was it Lewis Carroll was on your list?
Lewis Carroll. I mean, come on.
What did you say? You said something like, if it's Lewis Carroll, I'll eat my own hat. I'll eat somebody else's
Yes,
hat.
so whatever hat you send in, I'll eat it. It's not Lewis Carroll, is it? I mean,
I think I saw a question zip up. I don't know if you can catch that.
Yeah, so Don's just asking if Jack the Ripper had been caught and put through the justice system now, or back then even, what would the punishment have been? You know, would he have been institutionalized? What do you think that punishment would have looked like back then, and also what that looks like today?
So assuming he wasn't deemed insane, which I don't think he was, but assuming he wasn't deemed insane, he would have hanged, no doubt.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think, and I mean, you know, back then, I guess, you know, obviously things have changed substantially to now. I guess, you know, if that same process has happened now, obviously obviously they wouldn't have given the death penalty because we don't have that. But what sort of sentence would you expect somebody like that?
Life imprisonment with no chance of parole. Yeah, a full term.
A whole life.
Yeah.
I mean, we're kind of on time, but we had a few technical issues, so we'll run over a little bit, shall we?
I'm not going anywhere. It's fine.
Let's do it.
Where am I going to go at 9 o'clock on a Tuesday night?
There's plenty to watch on CBS reality. Just saying, just letting people know. So what I found most fascinating was this, what you describe as neutralizing, and then the main act where he killed really quickly, and then everything else he did was post-mortem, potentially to satisfy his whatever his thing was. Was that quite a unique offender profile, that act of quick kill and then the rest of the stuff being post-mortem?
It's not unique because it's exactly what Peter Sutcliffe did. So for him, it was a hammer across the head. That was his way of neutralizing his victim so that he could then act out his fantasies on them. And that's exactly what Jack the Ripper did. So he wasn't killing these women because he wanted to murder them. He might not even enjoy them, but that might not have been what he got any enjoyment out at all. It was what he could do to the bodies afterwards. And it's what you see is that that progression through it. And I always relate it to a thrill seeker, like an adrenaline junkie. What he's doing it to feed a need inside. Adrenaline junkies do exactly the same thing. So and I always refer to the ones that what they call the base jumpers that throw themselves off of the cliff. They don't just wake up one morning and say, do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put myself in a wingsuit and throw myself 1,000 feet into the air. They've got there as a path of pushing themselves, and they need to push themselves in order to feel that same adrenaline feeling inside, with fear, whatever it is. And again, I don't want to get caught into the semantics of what's driving them. It's within them, and that's what I don't get caught up in the murderers. It's not. You can't pinpoint what it is. It's an inner feeling they have to fulfill, and it's that journey that you see, and the killing. It's got nothing to do with the women. The women to them, the reason he was picking on prostitutes has nothing to do with because he hated prostitutes. I've seen people write theories because he caught syphilis or his mum was a prostitute. Or a load of rubbish. Prostitutes would go with him willingly, no arguments, no debating. They go with him willingly to a place where they wouldn't be seen. So that's why he attacked them. That's why he went with them. Like Peter Sutcliffe himself, when he got arrested, he came out with a load of rubbish about he was trying to clear up the streets of prostitutes, whatever it was. I can't remember the exact word. But then he killed a 16-year-old girl and a woman on her way to work. It was a load of rubbish. He was just trying to justify it to himself or what else, what he was doing. But the prostitutes allowed him to get up close, get there, and I use the word neutralization. That's my term. It's not an official one. As quickly and as silently as possible, and they allowed him to do that.
Do you have any opinion or any view on why he stopped? Because that's unusual, would you say, for someone to kill in that short space of time? Someone's just put a lazy killer.
Yeah.
Do you know why he might have stopped? Do you think that well, I mean, it's all conjecture, isn't it?
It is conjecture, and Pippa deals with this really well, I think, because I'm not an expert on like she is. I mean, I can investigate a murder, but I don't know the sort of the profile around them, the kind of person they kind of be, the behaviour they might exhibit after, etc. That's where she comes in, and she addresses that, and she basically says it's unusual. They don't normally stop on their own, and the advice she would give if and that's what she's doing there. She's giving advice. If she were to give advice in this situation, you should be looking for, when you think the crimes have stopped, people that may have committed suicide, left the country, gone into prison, that kind of thing, gone into hospital. And this is where, see, for me, one of the things that I didn't expect to end up was looking at where the crime stopped and why the crime stopped. And as a police officer, looking at the behaviour of those senior officers, I was disgusted by it. I've got to be honest. I think so for those that haven't read, so Mary Jane Kelly was the 5th of the canonical murders and the 7th overall in the Whitechapel file. It was of 11 murders. And on the very day that Mary Jane Kelly was murdered, the commissioner resigned, Charles Warren resigned, and James Monroe was placed as the new commissioner. Any commissioner that comes into the Metropolitan Police is exactly the same today. Mark Rowley came in, and the promises he made would have been, I'm going to sort out the behaviour of the police. I'm staking my reputation that I will sort out the abhorrent behaviour of police officers. That's what he came in to do. Throughout history, there would have been a reason why commissioners left, and the big problem that the next one has to solve. So in this case, it's Jack the Ripper. So without a shadow of a doubt, James Monroe came in as the Commissioner of Police on a promise that he would either catch Jack the Ripper or, at the very least, stop him committing any more crimes. And the very next murder on a prostitute that happens after he's made Commissioner, the behaviour, the mental gymnastics they do to try, it wasn't, I don't believe that murder was Jack the Ripper, but it's not even the point. What they did to try and make sure it wasn't Jack the Ripper was disgusting behaviour. That's how I can describe it. I didn't write like that in the book. I didn't go that strong, but that's how I feel. It's disgusting behaviour that they did. Yeah. Did I?
Yeah, you went quite strong. I remember turning the page on that, turning the corner of the page and going, he doesn't like this. It doesn't like this at all.
No, I don't, because at the very beginning, when we were talking, I said that murder is personal to me, and I see it's about the victims, it's about the grief that I used to have to share in the family and finding justice, and that's not a cliche. That's actually what drives us. We're finding justice for the victim. What they did had nothing to do with the victim. It had nothing to do with Rose Milett there. It was all to do with their own careers and personal ambitions, and that to me is what I find disgusting. That they were more concerned about the promises they'd made when they came in at that level than the victim. And she just, her justice for her just got lost in it, and that's what didn't sit right with me.
I mean, we'll end in a sec, but you know, we kind of end in the book on Aberline, don't we? In the epilogue, and he's still all that time later, he's still got that case, and he's still obsessed with it. Do you think that's quite a common trait of police officers, that you know, they kind of leave a case, they retire, leave the force, but there's always that one who quite literally in this case got away, and that will always kind of stay with them? That's just kind of the price.
I think yeah, I think we've all got cases like that, but none of us have been in this situation like he has. He knows he would have been very, very close to finding it. This would have been the pinnacle of his policing career in terms of the crimes that he was investigating. And I warmed so much to Frederick Aberline. I mean, where he said that so his days would have been horrendously long. Any time you investigate a murder, when they first happen and for some time after, you forget about your personal life. You're not going to see your friends and family. You're going to be doing extended tours. You'll be working like crazy hours. And he would have been doing exactly the same. But instead of going home and getting a little bit of sleep, he was walking around Whitechapel for two reasons. One, he was trying to see if he could see any clues as to who Jack the Ripper was. But when he was coming across the ladies that were the sort of women that would be victims of Jack the Ripper, the prostitutes, and those prostitutes weren't doing it because they were lazy and they just didn't they could be bothered to do anything else or whatever. They were only doing it to find a roof over their head and a little bit of food. They weren't doing it. They weren't rich. They weren't making money out of it for anything else than to survive. And when he came across these ladies, he was giving his own money to them for them to get their head down for the night. That's the kind of person he was, and that's the kind of police officer that I respect, and I would try to live up to. Not those ones that were in power that were not only looking out for themselves, but actually getting in the way of the investigation. So yeah, I had so much time for Frederick Abbott. I would love to sit down and have a conversation with him. I really
it
would.
really comes across. It's so, I mean, it's a brilliant book. So lots of people on here have got it, and now I'm sure they're going to go to bed and read it. It is one of those that, I mean, it's a bit weird reading a murder book in bed, but you can. It's not scary. It's, I mean, you don't go into horrendous detail. I mean, there's a lot of horrendous detail to go into. Yeah. But you're very...
Yeah, I don't talk about the murders. I don't try and describe them. Apart from the one at the beginning. And the only reason I do that is because Emma Smith herself described what happened to her. So I felt in a position where I could do that. But for the rest, you just leave that. It's up to your imagination, really, isn't it?
Well, I mean, I know it's brilliant because I finished it last night.
Thank you.
But for all of those who didn't, get on it now, I say. Steve, it's always an absolute pleasure. I'm sorry we had a glitchy, but do you know what? It's not book club unless you've had a glitch. So welcome to the club.
I really appreciate it. Thank you for the questions, everyone.
And
listen, I'm always open. If anybody's got a question, they can just contact me, and I'm always open to talking to people.
You're going to lightly regret that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But...
I'm a semi-retired copper. I've got the time. Like I can spend the time answering questions.
I feel like you might be writing another book very soon. That's just my feeling. I think there'll be something that piques your interest, and you'll go, "Come on!" It's like having a baby, and you're like, "Oh, come on, let's do it again." I've forgotten how bad it was.
It's the wrong time. This is not the time to ask an author, or certainly me anyway. If you're going to write a book again, just after this one. And look, I've got into TV. I'm doing a TV series at the moment, and it is so much easier. It's so much easier.
Can you tell us anything about it?
I can't say too much, but it's a TV show that gets more into the detail of what detectives go through than you would normally see.
Amazing. Well, we will look forward to that. It's always good to see you.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to see you both.
Nice
Nancy,
to see you. Yeah, I'm sure.
Nancy will kill me if I don't just do this. So Steve, you can stay, my sweet, or you can go. It's entirely up to you. But I'm just very quickly going to say that this is next month's book, The Delphi Murders. It's about, as it says, the quest for the Magic Bridge. Say it again.
Delphi.
What did I say? Delphi?
Yeah, the only reason I know that is I featured that on my channel, my YouTube channel, where the Americans picked me up.
The Delphi murders. Okay, right. The Delphi.
We would say Delphi, but it's Delphi.
Delphi. All right. Well, anyway, it's apparently Nancy's already finished this one. It is incredibly comprehensive, and obviously it's a case that, again, like Jack the Ripper, we think we know. And then I think we're going to learn an awful lot about it. So that's next month's book, everybody. And okay.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Professional ending. See you all again next month. Steve, thank you as always.
See you later. Take care.
See you later.